Well, hello everybody. Welcome. It is Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. This is the RambleCast. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me, I've got Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
Always matching my energy. And hello to Austin. Hello to Diablo. How are you two doing?
This is the energy of Corbin at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. This is the Corbin experience.
This is valid. Yeah, so it's been I don't know, kind of a wacky week. Lots of Corbin adding a topic there at the tail end. So it's hey, Brawl making it in. That's something.
Wow, we got everyone. We got Austin, we got Diablo, we got Metric Brawl. Okay. Yeah, so I guess first thing is we have Google I/O coming up on the 20th. Is that 2 weeks? Yeah, it's week after the next.
Wait, you said 20th, right? So that's 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So May 20th, that is the official Google I/O announcement date, the formal date for Google I/O. It's kind of weird this year because they're doing something a little different, where they're kind of announcing a few things ahead of Google I/O for reasons that I think are unpleasantly obvious. But as the Engadget article points out, maybe somewhat intentionally, the focus of I/O is almost certainly going to be heavy AI. It seems like they're not even really trying to hide that fact, because in advance of Google I/O, they're going to be holding a whole separate thing called the Android Show I/O Edition, and that's going to be on May 13th. That'll be on Tuesday next week. So Corbin and I will have a good whole day to watch it and think about it before we actually make up whatever it is we're going to say.
I mean, I might not.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I might not.
And that's fair. But yeah, so they're going to do the Android announcements basically a week early. And the only good reason to do that is because they don't plan to talk about them during I/O. Which, yikes. Seriously, yikes. That really tells us exactly what we need to know about I/O.
Cody, it's because they're going to spend the entire 3 hours or whatever talking about the new Google Clips, baby. Clips is back.
Ooh,
we're bringing it back.
Yes. I mean, look, I'm not going to actually rule out the possibility that they could have real product announcements or something during I/O that they wouldn't necessarily do during this Android specific event. But yeah, I think we all know better.
Clips. I wasn't supposed to say that yet.
Yeah, Corbin breaking embargoes.
Yeah, this is the kind of breaking news you can expect here. But you didn't hear it from me.
Yeah. So
no, I'm sure it'll be like very intolerable I/O AI slop. Hopefully better than last year and last year's subsequent rollouts, because last year was when they first shut off the whole AI mode thing and the AI overviews in Google search, and then rolled them out like a week later, and they were telling people to eat rocks and glue.
I mean, it's hard not to do better than that at this stage.
Yeah.
But
because like we all make fun of like Allo, right? Like some of the like low tier Google I/O announcements, but like I don't think Aloe ever told anyone to eat glue, as far as I know. So,
I mean, Allo
uh,
was where they rolled out Google Assistant.
yeah, and it
So,
wasn't. It wasn't dumb. It wasn't. It knew its limits, right? You ask it a question, it didn't know. It would just tell you, I don't know what you're asking me to do. And that's the way this should be.
that'd be nice. Um, it did shout at you a lot. Nice. Um, so, eh, yeah. Now, the fact that they're giving Android its own separate show is kind of good. I mean, in its own way. Um, in a sense, it's sort of acknowledging that Android is mature enough that they don't have necessarily the same massive announcements like they used to. To be fair, we've been saying this for years. Like, Android is, I don't want to say boring, but it's matured to the point that when a new feature is added, let's be honest, it's usually a niche feature that probably is not super exciting. It's not going to make people go, oh my god, I can't wait for this. Every once in a while, something like that comes along, but most of it, not so much. And like Android 16, honestly, I cannot fathom a scenario where everyone's going to be looking at Android 16 saying, wow, there's new features I can't wait to get. We don't know. Maybe there are, but there really haven't been for the last few years. So I'm not pinning a whole lot of optimism on this. In reality, it's probably going to be relatively small features that'll add a few APIs, and developers will have to spend a little bit of time updating certain apps to support. But outside of that, the actual platform version itself, probably not a big deal. Of course, we have heard about Material 3 Expressive, which obviously is their new iteration on material design. We'll see. I mean, there have been a few pieces written about it by pretty much all the major Android blogs, which is fine, you know. But until they really announce it and kind of give off their vision of what this is supposed to be, I'm not sure we really have the full story yet. Let's see. And strictly speaking, that's not really part of Android 16. Obviously, 16 will probably have some things that support it and enhance what you can do with Expressive, but I wouldn't expect the design language to be tied to the platform anymore. They kind of broke from that a few years back. Like, you can do most of the same stuff with each new iteration of a look. You can do that with older versions of Android without breaking a sweat. You just might not have all of the same features, like the system-wide color matching to your wallpaper, which Material 2 added.
Yeah, because all those big Android apps still need to support like 5 versions back.
Exactly.
So no one's gonna be like, oh, like we gotta build 2 very different apps or drop support for last year's phones because we really need this cool drop-down menu.
Yeah. So, one of the other things that's mentioned, of course, is Android XR. We know that this is going to be announced. They've admitted this much. It's known that they're going to be talking about this, so I am looking forward to this at least. I think it's going to be a good thing to cover. I'm hoping that they have more to show off with the hardware. I don't know that they will. And in truth, here's a bit of a theory. I think this is the reason, or this might be part of the reason why they want to do a Android show as opposed to the stage announcement, because they can do an Apple-like prepared video presentation on Android XR that's going to show it off so much better than they'd be able to do on a stage. And obviously they could show the same video in a stage presentation, but they're not going to. So I think Android XR might actually be the reason for doing this in the context that they are. That, and again, you know, more AI time on stage is obviously their focus. Really quick though, I have to do a quick side rant. I'm not gonna call out the author of this post by name, but I just really want to complain about their description of Android, or rather the XR projects Google has done. Allow me to read this sentence and feel free to predict where I'm going with this. Quote, remember Google Glass? No? How about Daydream? Maybe Cardboard? After sending at least 3 XR projects to the graveyard, you would think even Google would say enough is enough. These aren't XR. Whoever thinks these are XR, you don't understand. You literally do not understand what XR is. You have failed the basic test of knowing what you're writing about. Okay, now, in a moment, I will acknowledge Daydream, kind of an exception to this. But Google Glass, definitively not XR. It was a HUD. That's it. It was a heads-up display that you could have in your view. It did not react to the things it saw. It did not have any effect on what you see in the real world. There is no mixed reality. That's what the X in XR stands for, is mixed reality. It is not doing that in any way, shape, or form. It's like having a phone mounted in your view, except it turns off the screen and you can see through it. That's it. It was in no way, shape, or form mixed reality. Cardboard was not mixed reality either. That was just a straight up, no questions asked VR platform, and it wasn't even a very rich one. Daydream, and Corbin brought this up earlier, Daydream, bit of an exception, because the platform was headed in that direction. It would have eventually had cameras that could see through the like the headset, or headsets with built-in cameras. It was going to have various other features. Making that into an XR platform was actually a possibility, and it was something that they were designing to support. So I'll grant that Daydream was on its way there, but it was not there yet. So to the person that wrote this, I know you're never going to hear this rant, but to the person who wrote this, please, for the love of all that is right in journalism, learn what you're writing about, because Android XR is a different thing entirely than any of these other 3 things. Not to say that it can't also do virtual reality, not to say that it can't do augmented reality. It obviously will, in theory, be able to do both. That's sort of what XR is ideally supposed to be, is the hybridization of AR and VR. But Google Glass was never AR or VR. Cardboard was barely VR, and Daydream was VR, but sort of a starting point rather than anything ambitious like an XR project would be. So please learn your stuff and stop calling things XR when they are simply not. Okay, my my soapbox can be put away. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything you want to say up to this point?
No, I mean, I don't really have an opinion about really anything Google's going to talk about here, because the material design stuff won't really make it to me. they use elements of this in like their web and iPhone apps, but not nothing crazy. Um, Again, I still want Android XR to be a success because it sounds like a more open version of the Meta Quest platform, and I really don't like Meta having, you know, controlling and bankrolling the entire VR industry, which is what they're doing right now. Um, so I do hope that works out, and like I could see myself buying one of those because this is a space that I don't think Apple will ever get right. Maybe Google won't either, but I think just by virtue of the fact that they've done this before, not successfully, but they've done this before, and they're getting other companies to build the hardware and probably do most of the marketing. Um, I'm cautiously optimistic. I haven't seen anything that would indicate to me like this is going to be a slam dunk, but there's enough pieces in place that already make sense. So I hope it'll end up there because uh, I don't know what Apple is doing here right now. There's rumors of maybe eventually there being a cheaper Vision Pro thing, but they're still not really interested in this Vision Pro as a games platform, which is what where most of my interest comes from. I don't really want like an iPad attached to my face as my computer. Um, yeah, hope that works out, but we'll see, I guess.
Uh, Indeed. Let's see. So, this article goes on to, of course, bring back up AI, Project Astra, or Astra. I suppose I don't know how that's intended to be said. I'm not really gonna say much on either of those. Outside of, again, we know that this is going to be such a boring I/O stage presentation to watch, just because it's going to be so dense with AI stuff. And thus far, I've yet to see an AI presentation that made me go, "Oh my god, I'm really excited about that." Except even as I say that, I realize Microsoft actually did, like 2 years ago, put on a presentation that made me excited, because it made me think, hey, they're actually going to come out with they're going to come out with things that allow you to actually automate apps and software on your desktop to function, like really saving you real functionality time. And yeah, that never happened, which is a shame, but at least it was exciting in that sense. Let's see, this article I think is possibly also just maybe going into guessing territory here, but they mention Wear OS, and they're right. We haven't heard much about Wear OS in a while, so it's kind of time. No wordplay intended there, but yeah, it seems like Wear OS is long overdue for some sort of discussion. I would actually say the same about Android TV, and probably Android Automotive. All of these they're still in existence. Stuff is obviously still happening. We just never hear about it. And at this stage, I kind of think Google, they're going to be doing 2 separate announcement events a week apart. Maybe it's time to at least throw a bone to these other side projects.
Yeah, really all the Android-based systems are like this now to varying extents, but definitely with the TV and the watches the most. I don't know, maybe the cars the most, but definitely with those, Android feels almost more like a business-to-business product. So like you don't really hear about it because it's like, well, it doesn't matter. You at some point down the chain, you buy the product that has that's running Android TV, or you buy a car and it has the Android thing on it, because that's just who they got to run the entertainment software. Normal Android is kind of like that too. So much so that a couple of years ago, Google did do that rule that said like if your phone has the Play Store, you need to put powered by Android on the bootloader so people remember what kind of phone you have. So it's definitely interesting to watch and Android kind of shift to that as something you don't really think about, and Google doesn't really try to market all that much.
Not anymore, no.
I also noticed this with Chrome OS, where I was once again trying to find the stupid blog where they post the change notes for new Chrome OS updates. And we go to the Chrome OS website. It is written entirely for business to business. It's like the front page. I'll go to it just to make sure I'm not fibbing. But yeah, when you go to chromeos.google, it says the Google built secure OS for your business. Chrome OS is the Google built operating system at the heart of every Chromebook. And with Chrome OS device management, you can onboard employees, manage devices remotely, and more. Now, granted, I do think they have a separate like Chromebooks website. Yeah, they have google.com/Chromebooks, which is kind of the more like consumer focused thing and has links to buy Chromebooks. But that's also kind of weird because also the Android website isn't like that. The Android website is talking about like, here's where to buy a phone with Android on it.
Honestly, at this stage, I'm almost more surprised that the Android website isn't just directing you straight to the developer website. Because it feels like that's Google the audience. Maybe, but it feels like the audience for anyone coming to look up Android stuff is probably developers. The audience looking for Chrome OS, I can easily see that being schools and businesses.
Yeah, because that's the only people buying Chromebooks.
Well, that's the only people who care about Chrome OS. I mean, really, like the users of Chrome OS. And look, I'm not saying if you like Chrome OS, there's anything wrong with that. That's fine, but the people who are like actively interested in looking something up about Chrome OS, like researching it or digging into it, it's people who are looking to deploy it to students or employees.
Diablo said Google having to sell off Chrome would be a disaster for schools. LOL. Chromebooks are already a disaster for schools. Like I think like every year there's like a wave of articles that's talking about some school district that's sitting on like 1,000 Chromebooks that are functionally still working but like are unsupported now, so they have to get rid of them. And it's a huge time sink because those could have still been running not Windows 11, but you know, they could do something with them. Because Google, I guess it's time for me to write that article again, of like how Chromebooks just kind of are, you know, immediately turn into e-waste because they don't let you do anything with them after the Chrome OS updates end. You know, at least with you know, Pixel phones and tablets, you know, you can unlock the bootloader and have fun with custom ROMs and all that fun stuff. But Google doesn't let you unlock, I think, any Chromebooks anymore. There used to be a dev mode you could flip on and you get kind of a normal BIOS and you could kind of run Linux, but that doesn't really exist anymore. And yeah, Austin said same with iPads. Yeah, iPads have the same issue. And similar, Chromebooks probably have longer. Chromebooks definitely have longer support lifespans than iPads now, because iPads aren't hitting like 10 years for sure, and some Chromebooks are, but they do still have the same problem where once they hit that mark, they could still be functional and usable, but that there's limited software for that. Also, iPads just in general for school kind of are worse because they have, you know, some schools get like keyboard cases and stuff for them, but a lot don't.
Well, yeah, the accessory ecosystem for iPads is just very expensive. Yeah. And iPads, even on the cheaper side, iPads are kind of not really price competitive with Chromebooks. Obviously, you know, they're meant to be different. They look different. They've got better. They have better screens. There are a lot of qualifications to saying all of this, but yeah, it's just in terms of how you can use them and what you can use them for. iPads are more limited, even despite Apple's efforts to make its own suite of apps that are designed for schools. It's certainly not what I would like if I was making buying decisions for a school. I'm not inclined to send people to get iPads, or well, I certainly wouldn't try to buy iPads to roll out in schools. Also, Austin, thank you for the pronunciation guide. You made it clear that it sounds like Austral without the L, so it's Ostra. Yes, I am totally screwing with you.
Austin says we need TI to make a school computer. No, we don't. I mean, they technically did, like in the 80s or whatever. Some of the like TI 90 stuff was kind of closer to computer territory, but no, I mean, they're charging like $90 for something with the Game Boy CPU. I can only imagine what a computer from them would cost.
Yeah. Well, you never know. They could resurrect the OMAP.
It'd be like the Texas Instruments laptop would be like, those toy laptops they make for like 5-year-olds that have like little like black and white LCD screen in the middle, but it's like in a bigger like Barbie laptop shaped thing. It would be like that.
Oh boy, that's depressing.
Yeah, I just got the 4 megabyte RAM upgrade for my TI Barbie laptop.
Oh geez. It's really
anyway,
depressing.
Chromebooks still suck.
I look, I will not defend them, but I'll hold to the logical argument that they make sense in context for how they're intended to be used. And generally speaking, the price is not so outrageous that it doesn't make sense, even if they do have somewhat, well, not somewhat, but they definitely have like end of life built into them. But it also doesn't really change the fact that they could just be better. Like, just do better. Let's see. Yeah, so anyway, what else could Google announce? I don't know. The mere fact, like I said, that they're moving Android to its own separate show a week ahead of Google I/O is pretty telling. So in a way, I think back to for those that don't know, and I mean it's kind of predictable, but for those that don't know, Google I/O did not start as an Android event, very obviously, because Android wasn't even part of Google's portfolio back when Google I/O first started. Google I/O used to be all about web development, and there was a point in history I very specifically remember. Like, there was a Google I/O where they still had sessions about web development, and then the next year, none. Zero. Every single thing was about Android development. And that's when they, not quietly, but web developers saw this coming and realized, oh, okay, well, I guess we don't care about I/O anymore. Google wants us to pay attention to Android. But we're still web developers, and, Google's response was to roll out the Google Web Dev Summit. I think that's the right name. And yeah, that just became where the web developers paid attention, and it was a dedicated event for them. I have a feeling that what we're seeing is the interim step where going forward there will be a dedicated event relating to Android, That's going to become where all the Android announcements are. And Google I/O is just going to become an AI specific event, probably for the next several years, until, who knows, something else comes out and I/O morphs again into whatever the new hotness is. So maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling Android is probably not going to be an important part of I/O probably ever again. It'll probably still get mentions, maybe some announcements. The sessions might actually still be more Android leaning. Not that they really hold sessions proper anymore, but you get the idea. And I have a feeling, I could be wrong about this, but I think the Google I/O, actually, their schedule of sessions, I believe, still has all of the what's new in Android and all of those things. So that stuff will still be part of I/O proper, but honestly, I don't see why they even bother. They probably should just spin it out into an Android dedicated event, and then make I/O into what they actually want it to be.
Yeah, I don't know. These are so weird to me now, where both Google and Apple, like, they want it to be a thing that normal people watch on live stream, and also something that's like a like an event for devs to go to, like, like those sessions and kind of highlighting like platform features and stuff. Like, during the last I/O, they would talk about like their enterprise AI products, like their, the whatever the API version of like Gemini is. And those two things together like never really seem to ever mesh all that well. And I don't know if the answer for that is like put the Android user and dev stuff in a different event, so you have the same problem, but now it's two of them. Or maybe the Android thing will just be the consumer stuff, and they'll save the dev stuff for the sessions at I/O. So I don't know. But this is a problem that like Google and Apple both have, and it seems weird that it keeps happening.
Yeah, I mean, it does and it doesn't. Again, I kind of think that in the case of both of them, let's be honest, like, iOS is also pretty boring these days. Apple ties a whole lot of its apps and various other projects into iOS, so there's kind of a little bit more of more to talk about during each event, while still pretending that it's got to do with iOS. But let's be honest, the OS itself is pretty mature. It's kind of done. Like, they don't have a lot left to really hype up or show off. So, these days I'd say iOS is it's not like a dead end thing by a long shot, but there's just so much less exciting stuff to talk about. And the same is just true of Android. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just where it's at. I mean, people have even talked about how developers at each of these companies are trying to move out of those specific projects because you can work in them forever, and like, once you've reached a certain point, you're never going to get promoted, you're never going to move up, you're never going to have any like exceptional new future in the company. So the smart thing to do is usually just pack up and either move to a different project or ship off to a different company. And so, that's just you can see it playing out also in what they're announcing. Like, nobody has anything new or exciting to really talk about with Android proper. It's the side projects that are still kind of interesting, like Android XR. So, that's obviously got some room for big things to happen. But the Android OS itself, it, who wants to talk about the new intent for like opening photos? That's supposedly one of the things that's highlighted here as a new feature. Nobody cares. Like, okay, a new photo picker, fine. Or better support for cloud storage solutions. Oh wow, like this stuff just isn't special anymore. So yeah, that's all good. Just I honestly, like, I'd almost just be happier if they moved all the Android stuff out of IO and just sort of admitted that's a thing of the past. Though I also get what you're saying. Like, they could do the consumer stuff in one event, and that can be what they're doing May 13th, and then the developer stuff happens during the sessions. That still makes sense because, frankly, there's not a lot of developer stuff that they can do with the AI side yet. Like, they've got sort of early access projects available to developers, but most of that stuff is still LLM based, and so all you're really doing is passing a prompt from your app to theirs and getting back a result. I don't think that's got too many people excited. I mean, obviously there are people excited for that, but I don't think it's the sort of thing that developers are sitting there going, oh, well, how do I implement this? Or what tools do I have for that? Like, it's the same AI tools everybody has. This isn't a big shocker. All right. So anyway, I don't know. Do we have anything else on that?
No.
Okay. Well, so I didn't really have a good place to stick this in, but let's just tap on this and just talk about how stupid it is for a minute. But the Trump administration is apparently planning to shut down the Energy Star program. The good old Energy Star program, where various appliances and electronics and certain other gadgets were basically marked as being low energy users. This was a thing that everybody was generally happy about. I'm not going to pretend that the Energy Star program was particularly effective, because in truth, if you know much about it, it really wasn't. It was a good idea, and it actually did serve its purpose. The problem was, in many instances, the cost of getting Energy Star certified was relatively high, and a lot of companies just didn't bother doing it, even though in some cases they were actually more energy efficient than many of the things that were Energy Star certified. So there were problems with the program. However, it was a good idea. It was a thing that served a actual purpose, and yeah, just in time to put AI in the appliances. Good point. But yeah, Energy Star was a good thing. And they're predicting that Energy Star was saving Americans about $450 per year on energy bills. I think that's a gross overestimate in most instances, but I'm not going to argue too much over that. Regardless, this was a thing that was on the right path. It was important. It was useful for basically anyone looking to at least try to be more energy efficient, which is obviously a boon to the environment. And here we have an administration that seems hell-bent on really doing as much as it can to destroy the environment as quickly as possible, which, what can I say other than just, wow. I've never outside of religious cults, I've never seen any group of people more eager for the end of the world to come. Which, again, who's to say it's not a religious cult? But that's a subject for a different time.
I didn't even know Energy Star was a government thing. I just kind of, I think I assumed it was like the ESRB, like it's just like industry, like self-regulating thing that maybe doesn't do a lot.
Well, so that's the thing. It kind of was that too. So when Energy Star was created, which come to find out it was signed in back during Bush Jr.'s first term in oh no, sorry, the Bush Senior. My bad. It was during Bush Senior's term in 1992 when it was signed in. And yeah, I remember.
Okay, so this was maybe like his one good thing, I guess.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, all the like 20th century Republicans definitely had like the one thing, at least in the latter half, where like Nixon made also the EPA.
Uh-huh. Yep.
It's like they all have the one thing that was like kind of an okay decision, and then the rest is horrific.
Pretty much. So you learn the important part of history. Anyway, so the here's the thing about it. It was a, at least my understanding of the history of Energy Star. Bush certainly signed it in, but it was a thing that appliance makers actually did have some input in, and they kind of wanted it to happen because, shocker, it's a badge that they could put on their products, and it looks good. The big problem with Energy Star, of course, was in many instances the standards were set really low. They weren't trying to be super energy efficient. They were just trying to not have gross, like, plug in a light bulb and holy crap, it takes a power plant just to keep your lights on. Like, their goal was to just be better than terrible. And so it was an industry thing that basically the government technically oversaw. But when it came to getting certification, if I remember correctly, and this is where I'm a little fuzzier, I believe that this was done in kind of the same way that a lot of government programs are, where basically you just have companies that can certify you as Energy Star compliant, and those companies aren't really properly regulated. Like they again have their standards, and if they're caught breaking those standards, then yeah, they might lose their ability to grant certifications. But otherwise, they basically kind of just work like the FCC, where they run tests. They can check, do you meet certain energy standards for this type of appliance, and that's it. But again, these were private agencies that did the testing rather than something like the FCC. So it wasn't the best program, and again, like, the cost of getting Energy Star compliance was often really, really high for like for any appliance that wasn't going to sell in high numbers. So a lot of companies just never bothered with it, or they would do it on just like one or two models, and then they'd kind of quietly say, oh, all of our other models are exactly the same, so we don't put the sticker on them, but trust us, they count too. You know, kind of like how OnePlus stopped doing IP ratings on their phones for a little while and said, oh, yeah, we just don't want to do the official testing, but trust us, they're all IP68 or whatever.
Yeah, I think this also happens with HDMI a lot, where a lot of smaller products and projects will have HDMI, but like they can't say it's HDMI.
Yeah.
um, so
Yeah, so this isn't, in a way, I don't think that this is the worst thing in the world. Um, I mean, it sucks that this is a thing that they're doing, because even if the program was, if we're being brutally honest, it was just aged out, its usefulness had kind of gone away. Um, the fact of the matter is, it was better that we had it than not having it. And I would have preferred that instead of killing it, they try to update it, because it really, it had a reason to be there. So
I think I think you can say that about almost every government institution in the United States. Is like, man, this really is not good. But I'd prefer if it became better instead of it completely going away.
yeah.
And yeah, this is, I guess, a holdover from like the first Trump administration, back when he was more complaining about like weird energy and water stuff. Like he kept saying the thing where like, oh, every new toilet these days you have to flush like 5 times. And it's like, what? I've never in my life, yeah, I don't live in like woke California or whatever, or maybe they have the toilets that don't work. But like, I've never in my life seen like a toilet where you have to flush it 5 times. I don't think those exist.
No.
Um,
In fact, actually,
I've
the only
now
toilets I've
I've
ever seen that you have to flush more than once, that was a thing that kind of popped up in like the 90s, maybe early
Yeah.
2000s, and then it went
Or
away.
on airplanes, sure, but like that's because
Yeah.
like it's an airplane and they have a limited amount of water in the air.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as useful.
Yeah. The only other time I can see having to flush that many times, uh, it then becomes a question of what you eat. Like, what are you putting into there
Right.
that caused this? Because that's probably a thing you should talk to
What
your
are
doctor about.
what are you eating, or are you putting like way too much toilet paper in there without flushing first? And if that's the problem, maybe you just need a bidet. Maybe you need to cut this out.
Possibly, yeah. Or, are you trying to fit your diapers in there, Mister Mister Drunk?
It's starting to become a personal issue. That has
Yeah.
a personal solution.
Oh, so now all of this said, I'm gonna throw a bit of a suggestion. I know it probably won't happen, but I would love to see it happen. Let this actually become the invitation for the industry to do its own self-regulation. I know that's maybe a big ask, but it'd be kind of awesome if the industry would pop up and just say, you know what? Yeah, this was a thing. We actually liked having it because we got to advertise it. Let's come up with a new set of guidelines for all of the products, and just keep a system in place. Have, it can be the new Energy Star, or whatever symbol works for them. Give it a number rating. Give it, I don't know. I'm not really sure what else to do, but come up with something new that is the same thing, but modern, better, that makes more sense in its execution than Energy Star did. Because, hey, this administration's not going to do it, but how cool would it be if everyone else did? So, yeah, I'm down to see that.
I don't think
Okay.
that would happen.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I don't think it'll happen, but
Because I think the self-regulation thing only works if when like the government is like, we will regulate you if you don't regulate yourself. And right now we're not regulating anyone, so I don't think they have to worry about that. Well, I'm sorry, we are regulating things, but it's like what gender you're allowed to be. not necessarily how much power your dishwasher is using.
Um, that and of course, what kind of speech is allowed on the internet.
And I believe the federal government is suing or like trying to sue California for having its different emission standards now. So
Oh yeah,
actually, if you have regulation, they'll sue you.
yeah,
So yeah, good
which is
times.
inventive.
Yeah. Speaking of things that suck, the new Microsoft Surface laptop and Surface Pro. So this was uh, teased a while ago, but now it is official. Microsoft has a new Surface laptop and a new Surface Pro, which is their two-in-one tablet thing. And these are like weird and not really good. So I guess I'll start with the laptop, the least silly of the two, I think. And I say this as someone who had a Surface Laptop 4, which was very well built, and I like the design of it, but the performance was stinky doo doo because it had some AMD chip in it that like kicked up the fans as soon as I opened Audacity or like a couple Chrome tabs. And a couple months later, I bought a MacBook Air as my first Mac in years, and I was like, "Is Mac good enough for me to switch back to it?" And it was. So then I sold the Surface laptop. So that was my experience with the Surface laptop. They've updated a couple times since then. This new one is 13 inches. It still has the 3:2 aspect ratio. Still has pretty big touchpad, backlit keyboard. It has a Snapdragon X Plus 8-core chip. Now, this is interesting because the Snapdragon 8-core, the Snapdragon X Plus 8-core, is kind of like one of Qualcomm's mid-range laptop chips because there's also a 10-core X Plus, and then there's the X Elite. So this is, kind of down the range a little bit. It's still, a pretty fast chip, and very battery efficient for ARM applications, but Windows still has a lot of x86 only software. And I've only tried a X Elite laptop, and the x86 emulation on there can be rough for like any games. A couple apps are worse than others. Again, most people are spending their time in the web browser, and all those are ARM native now, so it's not like the biggest issue, but it's definitely rough. Like as soon as you like anything game related on these is still not a fun time. And so it worries me a little bit that the only option on this is the mid-range Snapdragon X Plus. They're not selling an X Elite option like on the previous Surface laptop. The other weird thing with these two is that they are slightly different sizes. So I think the last Surface laptop was 13.3 inches or something like that, and the older Surface Pro is I believe 13 inches, and the new one is 12. And I'm not entirely sure if they're supposed to stick around together because these were released in the time frame of a new generation. Like this was around the same time that the last ones were announced last year. So I'm not really sure if they're supposed to stick around. If the old ones are sticking around, then I guess like everything I'm saying matters a little bit less because you could just get the other ones. But the new ones are not that impressive to me. Especially considering Microsoft points out in this blog post that the Surface laptop outperforms the MacBook Air in 3 in some tasks. So like it's still fine. It's just I would prefer there being more chipset options, especially while Windows needs x86 emulation a lot more than that MacBook does.
Yeah.
And especially considering this starts at $900, which is $100 more than the last Surface laptop started at, which had a 10-core Snapdragon X Plus. So they're probably factoring in some tariff stuff in here. But regardless, it's not as good of a value, especially because like I saw I think it was it might have been the M4 Air. I think there's an M4 Air. I think I saw the M4 MacBook Air go on sale for $850 like last week. So still kind of a questionable value with these. Again, I know some people they only can use Windows and some people can only use Mac. I'm just saying in general. If both of those are an option to you, I would still choose the MacBook Air for almost anyone. Other stuff here is that this has a checking. Yeah, this does have two USB-C ports and a USB Type A port. That's good. I still like laptops having at least one Type A because you're always going to have like a keyboard or a mouse or something that is not Type C, or flash drives, or whatever else. And it does have a headphone jack, which is good. But those USB ports are only USB 3.2. They're not USB 4 or any kind of Thunderbolt, which is kind of disappointing on a laptop that's going to be close to $1,000 after taxes. And a little bit also interesting here is that I believe these are the first Surface. This and the tablet are the first Surface devices without the Surface Connect port, that little proprietary dock thing, which I think is fine for normal people. That was entirely a thing that they made before there was better solutions for USB and Thunderbolt docks, and they kept them around because they still sell these laptops and tablets to businesses, and the businesses bought a bunch of those docks and they would prefer not to switch those out. So the port just kind of took up space for most people, including me when I had my Surface laptop. Although it did serve a dual purpose of kind of acting as a equivalent to Apple MagSafe, where it's like a little magnetic, charger you could flip off. So not having that as the use case is maybe a little bit annoying, but it still has two USB-C and a USB-A, so it's probably fine. It's not the end of the world there. Looking at some of the comments, Gamer Mermaid said, "You're better off getting a slimmer 16-inch gaming laptop in 2025." I mean, all of these Snapdragon laptops, you are trading better software compatibility for battery life and I mean, the performance in native stuff is going to be about the same or better than like a lot of the laptops in this price range. It's mostly power efficiency and battery. So like this thing, I believe, doesn't have a fan, and it's going to last all day because it's ARM. So that's kind of the trade-off, and that's the trade-off I always make with laptops. I'm like, I know I could get a more powerful laptop, but like I really like having a thin and light thing with all-day battery. So that's kind of where I land there. But if like I only had to, if I could only have one computer, I would get a more powerful thing because I do want to play games occasionally. And yeah, so no USB 4 is kind of a bummer, or Thunderbolt or anything like that. And again, this is $900, so I'm not a big fan of the laptop here. And then the other thing is the Surface Pro 12-inch. So again, there's a larger one from last year that's a 13-inch. This one's 12. And this is such a weird thing. Like I know it sort of doesn't matter anymore how we keep having the discussions about like products that are labeled as pro but are just kind of like missing kind of the expected functionality of what that label might offer. This is definitely one of those cases. So the Surface Pro, it has the same 8-core Snapdragon X Plus chip as the laptop, and that is the only option. So everything I said before applies. Of like, it would be nice to have a higher end chip option in there, but it doesn't. You better hope everything you need runs in the x86 in native ARM or the x86 compatibility layer. And actually, when I wrote my article about this, it only had one comment, and the one comment was from someone who was like, "Yeah, I bought one of these Snapdragon laptops, and I couldn't run like half the apps I needed, so I returned it." And that's going to be true for a lot of people. Again, like pretty much any game, most games don't work on these well. Like I have my Snapdragon X Elite laptop over there that I reviewed a while ago, and I tried running Overwatch on it, which was, I think, one of like the advertised games that like kind of worked on it, and it was awful. It like barely worked, and I was trying to do some like upscaling stuff that also didn't work. And that's a game that runs natively on a Switch.
Yeah.
So
Well, to be fair, it runs poorly on a Switch.
sure. And yeah, so the Surface, this Surface Pro, specs page is acting weird. I gotta reload it. So this has a 12-inch screen. It's LCD, not OLED or anything fancy. Goes up to 90 hertz. It has one option for RAM, which is 16 gigs, and it either is 256 or 512 gigs of storage, which again, like, isn't great.
These do not scream Pro when I think.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think the Pros might like a little bit more RAM on that, please.
Especially for Windows.
And yeah, especially for Windows and emulating half your apps. So again, same issues with the USB ports. It has 2 USB-C ports, but they are not USB 4 or Thunderbolt. So they do have, Microsoft said it does have DisplayPort 1.4, and you can hook up to 2 4K monitors at 60 hertz. So I believe that's better than most Apple. Like on the lower end, the M chips, that sometimes max you out at 1 monitor. I'm not sure if that's 2 monitors in addition to the tablet screen staying on, but still. And also, no headphone jack on the tablet. I don't. So Apple also does this. They have the iPads, including the iPad Pro, that doesn't have a headphone jack. I don't care. It's still stupid. You have enough room for the headphone jack. Put the damn jack on there. I don't care.
Yeah, there's, to me, I mean, there's just no excuse not to have it. It's not like these things are so thin that the jack is a problem. It's not like they're trying to, well, okay, I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming this doesn't have like a high IP rating or anything where they're,
I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's not like you can drop this thing in your pool and fish it out and it'll be fine. So I'm pretty willing to bet that they have no other explanation for this other than maybe they're saving 45 cents per unit or something, or I'm not even sure what difference it would make, but I'm assuming it has to be some silly just cost-cutting measure to not include a headphone jack. It's such an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and this does have 2 USB-C ports, so like you can still plug it in to charge and have a adapter for audio or wired USB-C stuff, which is better than an iPad. And
actually, interesting.
All Samsung tablets.
On the specs page, I don't have the link to that, but on the specs page, do they mention anything about needing a DAC if USB-C is plugged in for headphones?
I don't see anything like that. I don't think they get that specific.
Yeah, I don't expect them to, but kind of wonder if maybe that's what they're doing here to save money, is just leaving out a DAC entirely. Um, because that's
Yeah.
certainly some that, I mean, it's not like it's saving a ton of money, but that I'm guessing probably would save them about a good 15 to 20 cents. Um, and if that's the case, like that could I'm not saying that justifies it, but I could see
Yeah.
them sitting there going, well, if we leave out the headphone jack, it's going to save us 60 to 75 cents. Screw it, let's just leave that out. And look at that, we just
Yeah.
increased our
And
profit margin by that much. Which I don't know that they'll
we
sell
gotta
enough of these to justify that, but
we gotta cut costs. Jesus, on the Pro Surface. Um, so yeah, and also again, this doesn't have the Surface Connect port either. I don't think that really matters. The option for the magnetic charging maybe would have been nice, but not the end of the world.
would you
And
agree that this pretty much, the fact that these two just came out both without that probably means that connector is dead? Like, it's
yeah,
probably,
I think so.
yeah.
It already was, because Microsoft has been selling the same like Surface Dock thing for a while, but as a USB 4 and Thunderbolt thing.
Mhm.
So it was pretty clear like they were gonna ditch that at some point, because it was just a legacy thing. So I guess they got enough companies to move over to those, which is better because you can use those Thunderbolt and USB 4 docks with a bunch of PCs and other stuff. So yeah, and they also they advertised that in their announcement they talked about the keyboard and stylus for this too. It's still the same basic setup as before, where the keyboard is like a little detachable cover thing. And the stylus, I believe this is new. The stylus has a slightly different design, and it magnetically attaches to the back to charge like an iPad or a Samsung Galaxy Tab. And the keyboard, they did something weird in their announcement where they kind of talked about how it has a improved design where it sits flat on a desk, which is what the original one did. And then when they released the Surface Pro 3, they added the option where the keyboard has a little like flap on. You can flap it out to give it more of an angle. So I think they got rid of that, but they were like, "Oh, it's cool now." It's like, okay. Like I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure they checked how many people were actually like tapping at an angle, and it wasn't enough, but kind of weird. And this starts at $800. And again, it's just the one config. And yeah, I just like it. It seems, yeah, Mermaid's in the chat. Who wants a Windows tablet, honestly, when an iPad exists?
Yeah.
It's the people who need Windows stuff. Like, that's really it. If you need Windows stuff, like, this is the best Windows tablet. Maybe, like, you really need Real Excel for your job. Or you just, you want some app that only exists on Windows. Or you want to occasionally, well, not play games on this, but, in theory, maybe one day you can play some Windows games.
So
yeah, it's entirely the OS.
I'm gonna throw in the group of people that actually cares about this, and we kind of had the same conversation about Chrome OS just however long ago, but it's for business, because if you need to hand tablets out to employees, are you going to hand out iPads? You certainly could, but if you're going to do iPads, you're still living within Apple's walled garden. You still have to go through a bunch of processes that it kind of requires specific skills that not all IT teams are going to have. And when it comes
You
down
got to
to it,
train people to use iPads. You maybe need different apps,
well,
and
I'm
you
thinking
might
mostly the
need,
apps, but yeah, the other stuff too.
yeah,
Um, but when you add all those things up, that can be really expensive. Not to mention iPads are pretty expensive still, even if you can get some of them much cheaper than the Surface tablets. Um, but that being said, when you're sitting down and making the comparisons, it's, here's a tablet. It can still run all the same Windows software that you run on all of your other PCs at that office or that company. And the rollout process and management of those tablets is probably easier, and you already have software for managing Windows PCs. So you use the same software on the tablets. Like, this is the audience for this. This is who buys these tablets, at least in higher numbers. Um, so yeah, I mean that's why anyone's getting these. Um, and in that context, these do make more sense than an iPad. Maybe not a ton more, but they make more. So Microsoft is serving the market that wants them, even if they're doing it poorly.
yeah. I mean, again, this is also the same discussion that I have about, like, why would anyone buy, like, when people say, like, why would anyone buy a Nintendo Switch when, like, the Steam Deck exists? And it's like, yes, I know, like, they're the same form factor, but, like, there's actually not a lot of overlap between the functionality,
Right.
and the software for both. So, like, I had a Surface laptop, I had a Surface laptop, but I had a Surface Pro 3 when I was in my last year of high school, and I could play PC games on it. I could do software dev stuff on it. A bunch of things an iPad could not do and still can't do. So, yeah, like, there's reasons for this to exist, and, like, I do think that the Snapdragon chip is probably the thing you want in a tablet form factor. But, like, the software and the x86 emulation is still rough, and this is not really. I don't think this is anywhere near worthy of the Pro label. I don't know why they just didn't call this the new Surface, because they were selling non-Pro Surface tablets pretty recently, like in the last couple of years, and then they also made the Surface Go, like that much smaller, like 10-inch one. Um, so I don't know why they didn't do that. This is just a weird thing. I don't really get what's going on here. And beyond the Surface Connect port, the other kind of big migration thing here is that Microsoft does seem to be going all in on the Snapdragon chips, because in the past couple years, like, they switched to the Snapdragon chips last year, and then they made a business version of these PCs that still had Intel chips in them. For all the companies who were like, no, we need the actual, we're not, the emulation doesn't work for us. But I don't believe they're doing it this time, because they did a blog post talking about the business versions, and they are also Snapdragon. So I think this might be the end of the Intel AMD era for these products. So yeah, kind of weird. Like, I guess there's, like, someone who this makes sense for, but not really a good value, I feel like. Again, no headphone jack on that Surface Pro is crazy to me. And
Yeah.
also on the Surface Pro, I forgot to mention, like, you're still buying everything extra. It is just like an iPad. Like, I like that Microsoft still has the integrated kickstand. I think that's something all tablets should have, but only the Surface does, I think, still. But you need to buy the keyboard separately, which I think is like $180 or something, and the stylus, which is also like $100. So you get those, you are like well over $1,000. You're definitely in uh, new MacBook Air territory, maybe MacBook Pro on sale territory.
Mm-hmm. Or last
Or
year's
if you need, if you,
MacBooks, or
yeah, or again, unless you like really need the tablet form factor, there's a bunch of like ultrabooks you can get for around $1,000 or less that are really good.
mm-hmm.
Um, you know, get yourself one of those like again, a MacBook Air, or maybe some of those fake ThinkPad branded Lenovo Ultrabooks. Some of those are pretty good. Don't get a Dell. The new XPSs look real. They're not good.
Yeah, we talked about those a few weeks back.
No, those also don't have headphone jacks. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I know this makes sense for like a small subset of people that like really need Windows, because I don't really know if anyone else is trying to make a Windows tablet anymore. I think it's just Microsoft. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't buy one. I have nothing resembling a need for anything like this.
Well, in truth, I think most people don't. And at this stage, I'm starting to wonder how much tablets really have that audience that they did several years ago. Um, it, Obviously, there was that phase where everyone was trying to say, "Oh, we want to do productivity stuff on tablets, so we've got to get the we need to up the power of tablets. We need to add accessory ecosystems and everything else to make tablets as productive as possible." And we saw Apple kind of try to lean into that a couple of times and fail. Google obviously just completely blew that whole scenario. And Microsoft tried, and I think at large was the most successful, and still more or less failed. And as a result, I think the people who could be quote unquote productive on an iPad, they found their way to doing that, and they're pretty much just doing it with what exists. And everyone else, I think, kind of just moved back to ultrabooks or laptops or whatever specific variant of that sort of form factor, because it makes more sense. It's more practical and more capable than any of the stuff that you're doing with just a quote unquote tablet. So
yeah, and I think give it a couple years, and Windows 11 on ARM might like be a perfectly good experience for like 95% of people. And I think at that point, when you have a tablet that has the power efficiency and the battery life of an iPad, but like can also do all normal computer things, that's a pretty compelling product. But Windows on ARM is just really rough, just because Windows is kind of a mess on a technical level, and the emulation just doesn't always work. Like again, like right now, like most games don't work. A lot of like older stuff that can run entirely in software emulation are fine, and like a lot of emulators have ARM versions. Like I think there's like Dolphin for Windows on ARM and stuff like that. But a lot of modern stuff does not like this. Basically, anything with anti-cheat won't work because the emulation sets off alarm bells. So yeah, it's just it's rough. And yeah, I checked my I had it open. I checked my article that I wrote about this, and come on, please load. Yeah, someone said, don't get anything with Snapdragon. From Adobe to printer drivers, do not play at all with this chipset. Bought it and returned it. And there's like a bunch of similar use cases like that, where it's like, yeah, something just doesn't really work. Like I think I checked Adobe's website, and they have. I think it's just Photoshop and Lightroom that have Windows on ARM versions, and everything else is still emulated x86. Um, Meanwhile, like all their Mac apps have been ARM native for years, so a lot of stuff like that. And it's getting better. You know, this is certainly going much better than Surface RT or the first time, the first wave of those like really awful Windows 10 ARM PCs with like the Snapdragon 7 series stuff. But it's still going to take a while. It's still going to be a much longer transition than Apple pulled off.
Yeah.
Because Apple, it's already didn't care about supporting software more than 5 years old, so it was pretty easy for them.
Yeah, and I would argue Apple had a longer runtime on their transition, that they were lucky enough, or they planned far enough ahead to basically do the transition in the background, and then it was relatively convenient just to roll things out and push to do the transition faster, and that made it work honestly a lot smoother because they planned far enough ahead. Ironically, Microsoft could be doing that, and just didn't. But hey,
Yeah, I've seen them. The impression I get is that Qualcomm is doing a lot of the work on getting devs to better support Windows on ARM. Yep, maybe some of that is coming from Microsoft, and it's just like a result of who's announcing it.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's still slow going. It's better than it was a year ago, but it needs to continue being a lot better. And Windows just has so many weird edge use cases where stuff doesn't work. So it's going to be a while, and these PCs are not like super duper high end, and I wish they had more better connectivity. And yeah, so if you really need a Windows tablet, and everything you need runs on ARM, which is, I think, a small subset of people.
Yeah. So, I'm going to really briefly, not briefly, but I'm just going to hijack into the next topic. Just because Austin brought it up, and I think we were going to address this, but kind of forgot. But the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge is it's coming. It's coming.
Well, this we didn't have this in the list because when we started, I believe the embargo had not lifted, so I didn't think to put it in.
Well,
it was a 7 p.m.
I see.
I think that was just before we started, I guess, or around the same time. But anyway, yeah. So
it was shortly
Samsung
after,
has announced, So Samsung has announced a new Galaxy Unpacked event to show off their S25 Edge, which is their thin phone that they briefly showed off at the Unpacked earlier this year, but they just kind of showed what it looked like and not much else. So I think there's been leaks about this, but I haven't really paid attention to them because I don't care, because I think all this and the rumored iPhone Air are dumb. I'm gonna be bold and say it. I think they're dumb.
Mm-hmm. I
think phones are fine. They don't. We went through this like era of like going way too skinny on the phones like 8 years ago, and it didn't go well. We had iPhones bending in people's pockets, and the worst battery life ever. And then everyone was like, oh, wait a minute, we can just make it a little bit thicker and put a much bigger battery in there, and boom, we fixed battery life on smartphones.
I'm gonna say things did not go well for Samsung, and things didn't go well for consumers in general. But I think Jerry Rig Everything, the YouTube channel, was thrilled because holy crap, did that turn into their business model? Every phone, let's see if we can bend it. Like that became the new thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
not a lot to talk about this yet. I don't know how much leaked. The main thing is just the event, and also they're doing the usual pre-registration thing, and you can get a $50 credit. But we don't know how much the phone will cost. So I'm guessing it's gonna be around 1,000. So
probably thanks to tariffs.
I don't know how much that credit will do for you, but if you have like at least 1% interest in buying it, maybe go get it anyway because it is free money. So,
though, bear in mind if you wait probably about 2 to 3 months after announcement, you can very surely get it for way cheaper. So, you know, is what it is. That or even just timing it around when the tariffs are on or off. You can get it for cheaper than whatever $50 would save you.
yeah.
And in truth, I kind of expect that this is going to have basically the same specs as the current S25. I mean, maybe not.
Yeah.
But it just seems like it's likely not going to be a particularly remarkably different phone. Maybe some small details will be different, but otherwise it's probably just the S25. But thin and edgy.
Yeah. And worse battery life.
Very likely. Very certainly. Okay. So yeah. That was just a quick hijack just to bring it up, but back on track with real topics. And I suppose you know what? I have no transition for this. So, let's just say Skype dead, y'all.
Yeah. Skype's dead, unfortunately. Actually, I should open it right now and see what it does. So I still have it installed. Oh yeah. There's the exit. When I open it, it says, "Thank you for being part of Skype." And then it wants me to open Teams, which I don't want to do right now.
But, no one wants to do ever.
No, it's pretty bad. So, I think we already talked about this when it was announced, but yep, Skype is no more. Kind of a shame because I think it was one of the only like full featured message and chat and call services that works on like everything. And definitely after it started to lose relevance in the world, Microsoft tried a bunch of like dumb shit. It had stories for a while. They jammed in like MSN articles and like the homepage because that's all Microsoft knows how to do with any of their applications. I'm surprised Word doesn't have that by now. But like the core stuff like always worked pretty well for me. It was the thing I had my family using after Hangouts kind of exploded. Because it had apps on everything, worked fine. The desktop apps were just web wrappers or like Electron apps near the end. But yeah, I mean it worked. It was more accessible, I think, than Discord still is. You kind of have to wrap your head around like the concept of servers, and that's a little bit better now. But Skype was definitely more like familiar territory while still being free.
Yeah.
So yeah, I that's my hot take is Skype near the end was honestly good. It was fine. It wasn't blowing you away. Didn't have crazy group messaging features or anything like that, but it worked. And I've used Skype for every Tech Tales podcast recording since its inception because Skype had free cloud recordings. So in theory, if like something went catastrophically wrong, I could still use that backup, just at severely reduced quality. Never actually ended up doing that, but that was a nice thing to have in there. And that's something that Teams does not have. I'm sure that's not an accident. So, Austin said, "RIP Skype, the only video chat app for the HTC Evo." Yeah, all those people using Skype with their Xbox Ones will also surely be disappointed. But
yeah, truth is, I
wonder.
I really didn't use it outside of recording Tech Tales with you, so I can't say that I have any particularly fond memories of it.
One thing with this TechCrunch article is I can't tell if there's a typo in here or if this is like when newspapers write an obituary and then save it for like 10 years. Because in here, when they're talking about alternatives, they mention when they're talking about Teams, they say it also comes with advanced security features and various integrations such as Evernote, OneDrive, and Office 365. Which Evernote has not been relevant now for a while because it got hit with the capitalism beam, and the private equity capitalism beam. And Office 365 has been Microsoft 365 for a while now, but that could just be a typo because that's dumb branding and always has been. So,
well, or it could even just be the writer
typo.
Like the writer might not follow the branding very closely and just doesn't realize it changed. Like honestly, at this stage, if I went back to writing teardowns or something, it would take me probably a good 6 months to lock back in on what some of the various like weird edge rebrands are within Google's product lines. Like there's some stuff I just don't follow closely enough to care about. So it it could happen.
Could be a typo. Could be that part was written 5 years ago.
Yeah,
both are possibilities.
Man, it's got to be rough doing the obituary like 5, 6, 7 years before a product is actually killed or changed, and you spend all this time combing over all the details and having to update it from time to time, and it's like, man, why won't this thing just die?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Skype dead.
Yeah, like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm disappointed it's gone because hey, options and all. But again, I also won't really miss it just because I never have reason to use it outside of the calls for Tech Tales.
Yeah. So rest in peace, Skype. Time about things that are dying. Synology.
I knew you were going to go that way.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I think we talked about it on here. Synology announced that it was rolling out a drive verification feature for its 2025 NAS units. And basically the idea was that some features would be limited to drives that Synology approves, which right now mostly consist of the hard drives that it sells with its branding that are slightly more expensive than maybe what you could get from other companies, especially if you're like waiting for a good deal on hard drives or whatever. And also, there were some third-party hard drives on that list, but I believe the number of those is still pretty limited. And it wasn't really clear at the time what the limitations were. So definitely, I was kind of like, okay, maybe this doesn't matter when it was announced. Like maybe it's like monitoring things that like 5 people use or large companies, and I don't care about. So now that the 2025 NAS units are available, there's been more testing with them, and there are some like really bad limitations. So Synology, when they did this announcement, they mentioned that the verified drives requirement wouldn't apply to drive pool setup on earlier units. So like me with my old Synology NAS, if I upgrade to a new one, I can just take all the drives out that are unverified because they're, old, and put them in the new one, and they'll continue working. So they wouldn't break that part. But according to this pretty good testing from Reddit user Dave R007, 007, they mentioned that you cannot use unverified hard drives to expand a storage pool of drives you took from an older NAS or replacing drives in that storage pool. So if I get a new Synology NAS and I take all my drives and put in the new one, and then one of those dies like a year or two later or whatever, like a normal hard drive thing, I can't replace that with another non-verified drive. I have to go look at whatever drive Synology has supported at that time and buy one. Maybe it's more expensive and use that. And also can't, expand it with more drives of maybe the same type. So that's not good. That's pretty close to just saying you can't use whatever drives, especially the replacing old, dead drives, because that's a normal thing that happens. Eventually, the drives will die, and you might want to replace those with a spare you already have. Like I do. I have another of the identical hard drive that I have 2 of in my NAS. So when one of them dies, I can go swap it in, and don't have to worry about the other one dying before I have a chance to set up the drive array again. So that's not good. And it's not really good that wasn't communicated well. The initial announcement I don't think was communicated well, because I think it showed up on like their like German regional website at first, and then once it started getting picked up, then Synology like gave a statement to Ars Technica and other tech sites. And now I'm finding out through a Reddit post that this kind of like very basic NAS functionality does not work. And again, the list of the Synology verified hard drives is their drives that they sell that are like white label other companies, and the currently pretty small list of third-party drives. And I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to keep expanding that list of third-party drives and keep up with all of the new ones that Synology or Western Digital or whoever, not Western Digital, I think that might be SSDs. Yeah, like I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to care all that much about making the list of verified drives as big as possible, because they would really just like you to, buy their white label drives. And again, I get why they would do something like this for like enterprise customers that need to have like highest quality stuff and like the best uptime or whatever, but like kind of normal people would just be like, yeah, I got this drive on sale, I'm gonna throw it in. And that's kind of how it goes, and not fun that they're just kind of killing that angle. And like the list of verified hard drives would probably not include like the kind of drives you get by buying a like external hard drive on clearance from Best Buy and kind of ripping the drive out. like a lot of people do. So not good, not good, and not good that it was not communicated all that well. And I wouldn't really want to buy a Synology product after this. Um, Not getting good vibes.
So there's a small part of me that looks at this and thinks there's there's a possibility Synology will actually do a better job than we're expecting with certifying third-party hard drives. Um, I'm not expecting this. I'm just acknowledging it's possible. Um, but yeah, as I think about what Synology's doing and how Synology has been sort of shifting, I kind of get the impression that as a company, I, I think that they're just trying to focus on enterprise customers at this stage. I'm assuming that they've realized they're not going to do they're not going to do well competing with with the likes of Terramaster and Asus Store or Ugreen. As I recently just said privately, Ugreen just sort of blew onto the map and was instantly competitive with the likes of Terramaster. And frankly, I wouldn't expect it to take more than another maybe 2 to 3 years, and Ugreen could be on par with Synology. And Synology was already kind of building a lot of its lower end models to with sort of enterprise style software. So I think Synology recognizes that it just isn't going to be super competitive with the consumer market. So it makes more sense to target enterprise. And this is the kind of move that I expect from an enterprise oriented company. When I've seen other products make this same sort of shift where they stop trying to compete for consumers and they focus mostly on enterprise, and I think of anything ranging from apps like text expander all the way to various whole product lines, or even companies like, let's be honest, that's basically what HP did. IBM did that. Microsoft certainly has done it, but just not to the same extent. Like, whenever they make that shift to focus on enterprise, forget it. Like, they're chasing the big bucks that they can make off of giant contract sales. And so they can put in these kinds of limitations, which in one way or another sort of serves them, and they don't have to worry about appeasing a customer base. So truth of the matter is, I think this is Synology sort of signaling in one way or another they're done trying to compete for consumers. Not to say that they will discontinue their product lines that do at least still serve a certain consumer market, but I think they're just open to the idea that that's no longer a thing. They're just going to make NAS products that target the enterprise, and that's what they're going to focus on. Even if they do still have 2, 4, and 6 bay models that can go to consumers, I think they're going to focus all their development effort on the models that are meant more for, small businesses and up, and their business decisions like locking down hard drives in the way that they're choosing to. That's 100%. That's just something that they're going to keep pushing harder and harder to do, because it does make them money in the long run, and these are the kinds of limitations that a company isn't going to mind. Like, most companies, even if they might want to save money here or there, they are okay with the idea of spending an extra $10-$20 on a hard drive because, hey, it's certified to last longer and it has other features and benefits.
Yeah, and like I get the need for like a verification thing for um like kind of more tightly integrated software stuff. Like I had to get my UPS battery backup based on the list of ones that are compatible with Synology because it has to talk to it over USB to figure out what the power levels are. But I don't think that's quite the same with hard drives.
Well, it's definitely not
At
because
least
that's a
not with,
protocol issue.
yeah. And two things about the software. Number one, I did see someone did post a kind of workaround you can do to flip some setting in the Synology OS to make it not do the drive verification thing, but like that could break at some point. And also the entire like Synology's main selling point is just like you don't have to fuck with it. It just works.
Yeah.
So if you're like starting to mess with those, it's like at that point you might as well just like kind of go on RAID or one of the other more custom solutions. And second thing about the software, this also seems very dumb to me because another strong selling point for Synology for so long was it having a pretty strong suite of first party and third party applications. And they've started to the first party apps have declined a little bit recently. Like I know a lot of people got mad because they ripped out like H.265, I think. I don't think it was 264. I think it was just 265 from like their like video encoding and like camera management apps. People weren't happy about that. And then more recently, really anything you could run on a NAS or home server or something has a process for using Docker. So the NAS ecosystem has kind of got to the same point as desktop computers with web browsers, where it's like if the operating system can run Chrome, it doesn't really matter what's underneath for a lot of use cases. Like if your NAS thing has like a recent Docker engine, it can run really anything that's like intended for these home server setups. So it's easier than ever for someone to jump from Synology to anything else and just run everything in Docker if they want. Docker is not like that intuitive for sure.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say
it's you know, it's an option that exists, and you know, if you're annoyed enough about Synology to migrate, then it's something you can figure out.
Yeah, and honestly, once you
So
have it figured out, like it, setting things up in Docker can be a nuisance, but once you have things figured out, frankly, it's mostly going to keep working. There are some problems. Believe me, I'm constantly running into them, but it is at least workable. And if you don't mind setting up a few extra things, you can usually sort of sort out the issues.
yeah, so it doesn't really seem smart for Synology to chase people off when it's easier than ever to migrate platforms. But what do I know? I'm not a business major.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I only went to one semester of a college, and it was a technical school, so it wasn't even like a real college.
Disagree, sir. Technical schools are they teach you more valuable stuff than what colleges do, like sure. Ivy Leagues or whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking colleges as in the things that like the Trump admin is currently like trying to sue out of existence because they're too woke, or let a protest happen once.
Yes.
So So
Man,
yeah,
it's
that's the Synology Llama drama. Um, I you know my Synology is good for a while, but I think once that dies, I'll look at what the other options are. Unless by then Synology backtracks on this, which I hope they do because it's dumb. But we'll see.
honestly, I don't see them doing it. Just
No.
brutal honesty here. I don't see any scenario where they're going to back down on this because I don't think they have to. And my whole thing about enterprise customers that I think explains the logic. I just don't see them having a reason to throw in the towel on this one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but speaking of throwing in the towel, Corbin, you threw in the towel on ultra wide monitors. How
Yeah.
dare you?
Yeah. So this is just a quick thing. I wanted to do like super mini review of this monitor I got, which I'll put in the YouTube chat which one I have. That's not
And
an
I
affiliate link. Cody should affiliate that.
um
um,
someday.
so yeah, so I've had a Dell ultra-wide monitor for years. I think I got it in like 2017. There's definitely pictures of like my setup when on like Android Police articles, and it's that monitor. So I've had it for a long time, but I did kind of want something um, like more usable screen space, and I saw Samsung had their Odyssey G7 monitor on sale recently for like a crazy deal, and it was the 32-inch model, and I've got that one, and the result was that it was basically the same width as my. I think my ultra-wide monitor was like effectively a 21-inch 16:9 monitor, but 21:9. So like roughly, so like this 32-inch monitor that I got initially was the same width as my ultra-wide, so very wide but tall. So it was like it was massive. It was really big on my desk, and I don't have like a vase mount thing, so it was like really big and kind of in my face. Um, and it was also I found out, of course, after I fully set it up, there was like a scratch on it, like right in the middle of the screen that was kind of like a dead pixel, but it wasn't. So I returned that, and I got it just so happened that the smaller 27-inch version that I linked on there was on sale for basically the same price. So I just returned that big one and got the smaller one instead. Now it's not on sale anymore, so it's $700, but I got it when it was $480. So my mini review is that it's pretty nice. My old monitor was like 1080p ultra wide, so I think it was like 2560 by 1080. This one is 4K, so I can no longer see the pixels. Text is very crisp. I've played games. I've played a lot of Overwatch 2 with this monitor now, and the much sharper on screen visuals, and all the text is very nice. It is noticeable.
And now Corbin's suddenly winning a lot more games.
Yeah, I'm so good now. I'm in the pro leagues now. But yeah, 4K is really nice. This is 144 hertz. This is the first time I've had a computer monitor more than 60 hertz. Very late to this train. Also the first time I've had anything with high refresh rate in a while, because I had my Galaxy phone that had the 120 hertz mode, but I turned that off immediately because that's dumb on a phone. I don't need that. So, and then I got my iPhone 15, which doesn't have that. So it's been a while since I've had anything high refresh rate. And that is nicer than I expected. I'm not getting that really in games. Like in Overwatch, I'm maxing out at kind of around, most of the time it's like around 100 frames per second. And actually, at 4K, my GTX 1080 can only push 120 hertz. So I can't even like fully max this out on my gaming PC. Um, but I believe I am on my Mac Mini. If I go to displays, so I've got this plugged in my Mac Mini right now, and it does support the full 144 hertz refresh rate or the variable. So I have it on variable refresh rate right now, and it's very nice on my Mac. I've got 144 hertz. Mac is very nice about the display scaling, so I can set it as large and small as I want, and everything stays crisp. None of the weird stuff you get with fractional scaling on Windows. And yeah, so it's a nice monitor. I think if you need a new monitor, maybe look at something like this. I will say this is one of those smart monitors where it has like the smart TV Tizen guts in it. I'm not connecting that to the internet. It doesn't need to. They let you skip that, so I did. And really my only complaints with the smaller one is it only has one display port. So right now I am just swapping the cables when I switch between my Mac and my PC. My Dell monitor had I think it had DVI, HDMI, it had it had two display ports. One of them was minis. I think I had my gaming PC on an adapter to the mini display port, and then my Mac was on the full size one. So eventually I'll see if I can get like an adapter or something, because the HDMI, when I can use my Mac with the HDMI, but it's 60 hertz. So I would like higher refresh rate. So right now I'm just swapping cables. I'm going to look at adapters later. But yeah, everything else is pretty nice. Also only 2 USB ports, and they're like on the back. So I did kind of like I think most Dell monitors are like this, where they have the USB ports on the side of the monitor, and they're pretty easy to access. These are like around the back, so it's like the good old days of when I had a iMac at home, and I'm kind of like reaching around to try to plug in a mouse or something. So that's not the most ideal, but it's fine.
Indeed. Cool. So I don't have much. I can't really think of anything to ask you about that. One of these days I want to upgrade my monitor, but frankly I'm not convinced that I'll be giving up the ultra wide life. So the only way I really see changing back to a non ultra wide right now is if I'm either doing it for a gaming monitor, like specifically a separate gaming monitor, or similarly, if I'm doing it, I guess, to have like a reference monitor if I'm doing like color, like color correct work, which right now I don't see myself doing. There's some stuff I'm doing that kind of would probably slightly benefit from it, but yeah, I just don't I don't have much reason to think I'll be doing that. So yeah, I think I'm sticking to the ultra wide life for at least a while longer.
Yeah, I that's what I was curious about when I was switching, because the ultra wide was like a massive productivity boost for me. Like that was really nice when I got that initially, especially mostly when I'm writing, because when I'm writing an article or whatever, I just do the window snapping thing, and I have whatever I'm writing, my editor thing on one side, and I have the other browser window, whatever I'm reading and referencing, on the other side, and they both get kind of a square-ish size, which works well for web pages. So that was always really nice for me. But I can still do that basically the same as I did. Especially on Mac, it's really easy because you can set so many options for the display scaling. So um, I'm right now I'm doing that. I have the video call and the YouTube chat on one side, and my browser window with all the links on the other, and it works exactly like it did before. So that hasn't really changed for me. Um, it is a little bit more. It is a little bit of a different workflow if I'm using like Visual Studio Code, where like I maybe have to like organize that a little bit differently with all the panels, but it's pretty much the same.
Um, Meanwhile, I'm sitting here with the ultra wide, and uh, over to this side, I have the YouTube dashboard with the chat in it. Dead center, I have the Amazon page open to the monitor you got. Next to that, I have the video chat with you, and then on the lower portion, I have half covered my Discord window, the show notes, and OBS. So I have six.
Okay, so you're doing like three. You're doing like a trifold. With
Yeah, I've got
windows.
basically
Okay.
3 columns going. Each
Okay.
column, and it is 2 layers. I mean, it's again, like I said, about half of the Discord window is covered, about half of the show notes are covered, and about half of OBS is covered. But to be fair, I also have every once in a while certain windows I kind of pop on top a little bit. And these aren't like perfect columns either. Each of these windows is a different width for reasons that are kind of both accidental and on purpose. I won't try to explain that whole logic of it. And as a result, I do have the video chat
I mean,
with
like
you
most
partially covered. But it doesn't cover your face, it just covers
Yeah.
part of the side of the window.
I mean that I think that is also helping with when I'm doing a lot of tasks that are like in a web browser. All websites are responsive now, so I can like make it like a super tiny column and still read it perfectly. So that helps.
Yeah. And part of the reason that I always skinny up the window that I'm sharing on OBS because, well, a little bit because it tends to make the windows easier to read for anyone watching the stream, but also there's some weird glitchy size stuff that happens, and rather than trying to force it to be fixed in OBS, it's just easier to shrink the window. Which is dumb, but it's true. So
Yeah, definitely if I was like doing more live streaming stuff, I mean I had this issue with my ultra wide too, where I do still need like a small separate screen that is not like intruding on the screen sharing or kind of making it more difficult to multitask. So like if I was doing something like that, I would get out like probably much smaller screen below or above the monitor. Like I've definitely tried to do that with my Mac Mini a couple times, where like if there's a live stream happening that I need to watch for work, I would have it on like another screen entirely. Right now, when that happens, I just get out my MacBook because my Mac Mini cannot do 2 DisplayPort monitors, and my portable monitor is DisplayPort. So that's really fun for me.
I bet.
But yeah, I can do also the iPad handoff thing. The handful of times I use that. But yeah. So yeah, I haven't really had any real productivity loss. I feel like with the 16:9. Mostly because Mac lets me scale everything as big or small as I need it, whereas Windows is more temperamental.
Indeed.
If I was still doing primary Windows, I would probably still get like an ultra wide something, because I have my Windows PC set at 2x scale, so I'm kind of back to like a normal usable screen area of like a 1080p 27-inch monitor, which is not great. But if I do like 150 or 125x scaling, then like a handful of apps look really fucked up. So thanks again. I know, great. Another great feature in macOS that Microsoft just has not replicated yet.
Yeah, pretty much. So cool. I don't think I have any other angles to discuss on the monitor, unless there's anything else you want to bring up.
Nope, that's my mini review.
All right.
That it's good.
So I have considerably less to say on this topic right now, but I have a quick hardware related thing to bring up myself. Let's switch views for this. Oh, hey, the green screen is a little wonky there. All right. Anyway, so as I have mentioned in the recent past, of course, I'm no longer with Android Police, but that doesn't mean that reviews are going to stop. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I received the thing that is going to be the first review on my YouTube channel. So I will soon be covering the JBL Tor 1 in 3 headphones. These are Bluetooth or wired headphones. And what's kind of neat about them is they're the first headphones from JBL, and I think anybody that uses a smart wireless dongle that has a touchscreen on it. So if you remember, I've also reviewed the earbuds that have a smart case. They've done a few different iterations of these now. It basically has that exact same thing, but it's as a separate little device that you can just kind of have off on the side. You can just use it to control the headphones. You can also plug in like other audio sources using a cable that's basically kind of like a reverse of the USB-C to headphone jack that we use on phones. Like, I think it's basically that same kind of cable. And you can just plug that in to bring audio in and stream it from that little controller module to the headphones. So some neat features. I'm looking forward to testing this out. Outside of just briefly opening the package, I haven't turned them on or worn them at all yet. So I have made no judgments yet about how they sound, how comfortable they are, anything like that. But they are a nice deep shade of blue. So if lit correctly, I think they're going to be really pretty.
I like that it's back to a very over-engineered version of the just audio controls on the headphone cable.
Yep. The good old on the wire cable.
Ago. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But the audio input is kind of nice, because I know there is like I see those on Amazon sometimes of wired to Bluetooth adapters for like airplanes, and like the handful of other cases where like you need to use wired, but maybe the latency still doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a feature that I didn't use it a whole lot for different reasons, but the only place I've seen this feature built right into a product before was the HP Poly earbuds that I reviewed like probably close to 2 years ago. And the earbuds themselves are ugly. The case is horrendously ugly. It looks like a casket. and it's gigantic. But that had the same sort of feature, but well, that's it. Yeah, I mean there were earbuds instead of headphones, so uh, take that for whatever grain of salt it's worth. But yeah, I haven't seen anybody else integrate something like that right into the product, so I'm happy to see that. Plus, again, these are both wired and wireless, so I, it's not like that's the most unique feature in the world. There are certainly headphones out there that do that. I'm wearing some from Shure right now that these were the first that I've used that had that. And again, it's not totally brand new or anything, but I'm always happy to see it. It's actually a really good feature if you do anything like gaming, or even if you just watch movies with your headphones. Because that Bluetooth latency, if you know much about this, like Bluetooth devices can sync. They can sync with video so that they can have audio that matches with like people speaking on screen. That part isn't hard to do, but gaming, forget it. Like there's no such thing as Bluetooth headphones that are going to give you like really, really good in time, totally synced up audio to go with your gaming, because games are just too fast. So,
or even just like video calls. Like right now, I've got my Sony Alphas, Sony X and whatevers in Bluetooth mode, and Cody's lips are moving about a half second out of sync with the words coming out of his mouth. But I don't care. But I do use the wired mode on these all the time for if I'm playing a game, or just like sometimes I just plug them in for audio on my laptop because I don't want to deal with Bluetooth nonsense. And definitely every time I'm doing any audio or video editing, Bluetooth is unusable. So,
oh yes, that editing is huge. And it's so much worse. I've tried it. I tried it once in DaVinci Resolve. Editing audio with video. Oh my god, that is the worst. It is absolute hell doing that. You basically just have to kind of look at the waveform and sometimes just guess. Like, you hear sound. Oh yeah, Corbin's lips are slightly out of sync even on stream. That makes sense. But even the sound, like when you're editing, you'll see or you'll hear something and it's like, okay, I need to clip right before this particular thing gets said. And so you literally just make your clip and play it, like delete or disable a track or whatever, and play it again just to see, did I get it in the right spot? No? Okay, undo. All right, try again, but like 3 frames later or earlier or something like that. Like you're throwing a dart. If you have to make any precise cuts, you may as well just be throwing a dart in a like completely blind. It's really unpleasant. So just to state it clearly, I've only tried doing this once, and I did not spend more than about like, I don't know, 10 minutes fiddling with it before it's like, no, I'm gonna go get a wired headphones. You just have to. And I know that like some earbuds and headphones do have low latency mode. I've tried this, and I will grant it's not bad. It's not good. It's not good enough. Like the problems that I'm describing, they're still there. And if you do stuff, most of those, at least of the ones that I've tried, if like you just turn your head to the side, so your head is just blocking the direct line of sight, basically, like all of a sudden one of the headphones will fall out of sync, or it'll start artifacting or doing weird stuff. No, you just can't. It's not worth it. there's no version of life where that is an acceptable way to try to work. So yeah,
Yep.
I
And this is, one of those things where people who have hot takes will want to bring up the hot take of like, uh Bluetooth sucks for everything. I want my wires back. Or the alternative of, why are people still whining about wired audio? Bluetooth is great. There are places where both are the best option. I want both. I want my phone to have a headphone jack for the times that I want wired audio, and other times where I'm just, listening to a podcast while I'm walking around my apartment, like cleaning stuff. I want Bluetooth for that because that works fine for that. And if I don't have Bluetooth, you know what happens? I walk past a drawer and my earbuds get yanked out because they get pulled on the handle for a cabinet or something. So both are good. We should be able to have both on all our things.
I gotta say, I feel like after, maybe it's because I really just grew up fully in the wired, in a wired generation, but I feel like I didn't really mind wired that much. Like the things that made it problematic, you learn to live with them. And so I don't mind them maybe as much as other people do. I certainly get everything you're saying. Like, yes, sometimes they got tugged out. Sometimes they got in the way. Sometimes, like, the ways that you might learn to wrap them around, like, your arm, or to feed them up through a jacket, or any of those sorts of things.
If I'm like, if I was gonna use like wired earbuds while like doing cleaning, I'm running them through my shirt. But the Bluetooth is nicer for that.
Yeah, so it really just
everything should have both. And if you're gonna go on the internet and say like, why do we need wires? Don't. Cease.
Well, I will argue, I don't need every product to necessarily support both, but there are certain products that I think it's just a given. Like, there's no reason, zero reason that a laptop should not have a headphone jack.
Yeah, I mean, really, all phones, tablets, laptops, I totally understand when, like, a Apple Watch is not going to have a headphone jack on it for, like, if you're running and you want to listen to music. I understand that one, but I think there's plenty of other things that should have that.
Yeah. And yeah, it exactly. There are always reasons why you might need them or want them, and making such an effort to eliminate one option here or there, or even just arguing that certain things shouldn't have options, you're probably, like, you're inherently taking the wrong position. That's the position that history will always show, that being closed-minded about something is probably the wrong place to be.
Yeah, and there was a good Blue Sky post I saw about this recently, where someone said, where is it?
Was it just it just reposting an XKCD article?
No, it was just another comment of like, with everything, like, use cases other than yours exist. And it was talking about that in the context of a lot of things, but also VR. That's definitely one of those things where there's a lot of people who like to be like, oh, VR is dead, or was it fad, or was like, no, it's just not a thing everyone is using or needs to use, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I've taken the position for a long time now that VR is interesting. VR is a good thing. VR will grow to become more important as time goes by. But the practical reality is the technology isn't there. And I'm not saying that it isn't there to use VR. I'm saying it's not there to become ubiquitous. It's not ready for everyone, and everyone's not ready for what exists today. In part because we still have people that get wildly motion sick with even the best VR. But even beyond that, like, there are many things about VR that we're just not there yet. Like, you know, imagine wearing a heavy headset for an entire day of work and beyond. That's something we're not there yet. Like, they're just not comfortable enough.
I like
But
that you said that, like Buzz Lightyear getting an office job,
yeah.
an entire day of work and beyond.
Well, I
Anyway,
was thinking about the commute on the subway home, but yeah, you know, the
right.
certainly the Lightyear works too. But yeah, and you know, as it stands,
Hopefully you're less of an asshole than Tim Allen, but you know, it's okay.
I mean, I don't know. I could be. um but it's funny you mentioned VR because VR is also another one of the use cases where wired headsets are really important.
Yeah,
I mean, not
yeah.
in all VR
To the point where like
implementations,
Apple,
but
like the yeah, yeah, because the Vision Pro, I like Apple had to build like special pipeline stuff for the AirPods to be like a usable audio source for the Vision Pro, and I did write one article about like wireless audio on VR, and I did try to play Beat Saber with Bluetooth earbuds, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Now, granted, that is like the worst possible use case for that, but it still doesn't work. You do need wired.
yeah,
And that's why
that sounds horrible.
The Quest headsets have a headphone jack.
As any sane person would agree, they should. Um,
So yeah, that's your rant is other use cases than the ones you have or envision exist. And don't be so quick on the hot takes.
well,
Unless you just want attention, which is what most of them are for.
yeah, I have ranted specifically against people being too quick with hot takes in the past. In large part because I've watched too many people be doing it purely for attention, and they tend to do it in a way where they're really just trying to be market manipulators in the process, and usually it's kind of a bad faith argument. Especially because a lot of those same people will then go back and delete their bad hot takes when they realize how wrong they were. May have worked with a few of those. But
Cowards.
yes, exactly. Cowards. But yeah, so anyway, that's I think pretty much the whole discussion that could be made about some headphones I have not even turned on yet.
Yep.
All right. So, is there anything else that we wanted to cover or lambast? Or anything you'd like to pitch?
Go to techtalesshow.com. There is a new Tech Tales and Cody is in it.
I am.
That's all.
It is a fact.
It's on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just go. In fact, I will put the YouTube link also in the chat. Go there right now and click subscribe and watch it.
Yes, please.
Or you can listen to it in your podcast app. I'm not one of those people that likes YouTube at all for podcasts. That's not how my brain works. But maybe your brain works that way. I appeal to both.
I mean, I'll watch the occasional video podcast in YouTube. But yeah, I do not go to YouTube for podcasts. The only time I do, it's when the thing is either only available on YouTube or it has a very significant video component, or every once in a while I'll see something recommended, or it is in my subscriptions list, and it's like, I really don't have the patience to go track it down in a podcast player so I can listen to it correctly. I'll just watch the video. So yes, that's good times. Go listen to the Tech Tales. Check out um check out Internet Time. Good old Beats system. It was a interesting tale for sure. And as for me, I have mentioned this previously. Keep an eye out for the YouTube channels. I have things planned. Nothing has been shot yet, but I have several videos in mind that I want to get shot fairly soon. And to Mac users, I'm probably going to be hitting up some of you in the near future to do a little bit of software testing. More to share on that in the future. And don't worry if you're a Windows user. I may have plans for you too. But that's for another day. So, with that said, huge thanks to members of the chat who've come by, hung out, been part of the conversation. Of course, huge thanks to Corbin for being here as well. And special thanks to supporters of the channel, David, Carson, Austin, Diablo, and Curvy Mermaid. Alyssa. Because yeah, you guys help keep the channel going. You're awesome and love to have you around. Let's see. And if anyone would like to support the channel, Austin, what's the O? I should probably ask that. Were you here when I gave that announcement before? You may not have been, and I realize I forgot to ever say anything in Discord. Anyway, brain farting. Oh, if anyone would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, I will be back this weekend with some gaming, probably some Overwatch, some Rivals. We'll see, maybe something else, maybe not something else. And of course, we will be back next week with another RambleCast where we will be talking about that Google Android video show presentation, whatever, and probably a few other things. Austin. Okay, you're interested in Mac app. I will keep that in mind. And
I'm gonna ask Gemini to summarize the Android show for me.
Honestly, not even kidding. I dare you. I want you to do that because I want to know what you think ends up being said based on what it gets out of that episode.
Yeah.
Because I end up
arguing about something that did not happen. Yeah.
Yep.
I can't believe they're rolling out Android for the iPhone now. Why is that happening? Material Design 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
Wait, what's this? Samsung is making Android, and Google's going to be making the Samsung headset. That's weird.
Yeah. Tizen's back.
If they mention Tizen, we have bigger problems. That's actually, you know what?
You know what's scary is my monitor has Tizen.
Oof.
It's unfortunate. I know.
Okay. Wow. That's dark times. Dark times, my friend. All right. Anyway, yeah, I think that's rambly enough. So I hope everyone has an excellent rest of your evening, a good rest of the week. I will see you all in Discord. And with that, good night, everybody.
Bye.